Welcome back, guys. This week we are embarking on Chapter 1, God the Main Character. So the overall goal of this study is that they would see who God is, a loving Father who has created this good world, who honors us by making us into his image, who brings life, light, and order to this world, and practically it ends with a challenge for us to join him in this work. So starting off, I would set the pace of this study with a prayer. Either one of you guys can pray, but I would try to, generally start your studies with a prayer. It can also be a great opportunity if the person you're studying with has never prayed before to introduce them to that and to give them a little bit of practice in a non-stressful environment. That done, I would ask how the reading went this week. Don't shame them if they didn't do it, but encourage them to read this week. They are going to get so much more out of this study if they actually read these passages, since we have so little time in person to actually read long texts of Scripture. If they read any, I would ask if they have any questions. If you feel prepared to answer some of those questions, go for it. If not, I would encourage you to seek answers this week from trusted mentors. You can come back next week and share kind of the advice that you found. In the meantime, you can also point them to some awesome resources. The Bible Project podcast has a great Q&A on Genesis 1 through 11 that goes through a lot of the major questions that people have. You guys could both listen to that during this week, come back and discuss. The Lost World of Genesis 1 by John Walton is a great book that helps unpack how to read the first chapter of Genesis, if they have any questions about that specifically. We'll include links to all of these and some other resources that you might find helpful in the description below. So let's go ahead and jump in. This lesson is a bit shorter, we think just about an hour, but there's still some awesome foundational stuff in here. So jump in, read the quotes up top aloud together. These are just meant to set the stage for the discussion that's about to happen. So the first three questions are really just to learn from one another where both of you guys come from. Be prepared for a variety of different answers. You may both be in complete agreement about all these things. They may have a whole bunch of questions about these things, or just disagree with the biblical account of things. That's okay. Unless you're really convincing, you're probably not going to convince someone of everything that you believe within the first 5 minutes. We're going for base hits, not home runs here. Most people haven't ever read much of the Bible before, so why should we expect them to believe in all of it right off the bat? Be patient. Introduce them to Jesus lesson by lesson. Let him convince them through his word. Just be a friend and answer their questions as best you can. So now go ahead and read Genesis 1:1 to 2:3 aloud together. The first question of what jumps out to you here just gives you guys both a chance to process what you've just read. Maybe something new is sticking out that you've never noticed before. Maybe you have a big glaring question of what does that mean? This is a chance to just kind of let those out, make sure that you both even understood what you just read. Just take a moment and share your thoughts. No right answer here. And next we have this text. The point here is to notice what God does in all of these verses, that he brings life and light and order. Feel free to look up these different verse references that we've pointed out and read those aloud together. Next we have the following two questions, and these are meant to drive home the point that God is active in the world today. So ask, do we recognize, do we agree with this idea? If that's true, what does that mean for us? Following that, in the next section, we're going to focus on what does it mean to be called an image of God? If they did the homework this week, they will have already watched a Bible Project video just on the image of God. What does this mean? What is this concept? If you haven't seen that in a while, I'd recommend that you go ahead and watch that this week as you prepare to teach this study. The thing to keep in mind is that God has given us a place of honor by making us into his image. We're to rule this world. We're free to make decisions. We're free to create and think and build things. we have a role to play in this surprisingly open-ended world that we find ourselves in. So process that together, knowing that you are God's image bearer. What are the implications for your own sense of meaning and purpose as a human? How can you join God in his work? This section ends with a blurb about our role in bringing creation to maturity. The point here is that we have a role to play in this story. We get to be actors here if we are willing to enter into it. Finally, we have this whole making connections section. The goal here is just to see how interconnected all of Scripture is. So read these quickly together. Try to note how the biblical authors are always pointing you back to things that have already happened before. They're always having little phrases, little snippets that make you think, well, that was Genesis. Oh, that was Exodus. Oh, Jesus is reminding us of this. That's what we're trying to do here. There's another hour's worth of pre-work for the next lesson, so mention that, encourage them to read, and take full advantage of this opportunity. Thanks so much, guys.